Hello, and welcome to this workshop on network security design for cloud. Today's webinar is sponsored by Palo Alto Networks and produced by Actual Tech Media. My name is Scott Becker. I'm from Actual Tech, and I am excited to be your moderator for this special event. Now, before we get to today's great content, we do have a few housekeeping items that are going to help you get the most out of this session. First, let's talk questions. We want this to be an informative event for you, so we encourage any questions in the questions box in your webinar control panel. So this will be a jam-packed session that goes to the full hour. So I'm not sure how many questions we'll be able to get to, but your questions are very important to us. And even if we don't get to them during the session, we'll pass them all along to the Palo Alto team for follow-up. The Q&A panel is also the place to let us know about any technical issues that you might be experiencing. A browser refresh will fix most audio, video, or slide advancement issues. But if that doesn't work, just let us know there in the Q&A and we'll provide further technical assistance. Okay, next, handouts. In the handout section of your webinar control panel, you'll find that we're offering several resources. I'd especially like to call your attention to a link for Palo Alto's website where you can learn more after the session. There are also some links there labeled ATM, which stands for Actual Tech Media. One of those is the ATM Decisions Group, which is a panel of IT decision makers that you can apply to join to participate in some more in-depth events and other opportunities. Also, there's a link to the ATM Event Center, which has our calendar of more upcoming events like this one. So I encourage you to access those resources now and feel free to share them with your friends and colleagues. Now, I'm sure you noticed the prize icon there. At the end of this webinar event, we will be awarding a $250 Amazon gift card to one lucky registrant. Of course, you must be in attendance during the live event to qualify for the prize. Official terms and conditions of today's prize drawing can be found in the handout section. Just scroll to the bottom and you'll find the prize terms and conditions link there. Okay, with that housekeeping out of the way, let's get to today's fantastic content. So it's my pleasure to introduce you to our presenters today. We have Raj Patel, who's Director of Technical Marketing Engineering at Palo Alto, and we have Eric Van Woerden, who's Senior Manager for Network Security at Palo Alto. And now I'm going to turn things over to Eric to get us started.
Hey, everybody. Thanks again for joining us. Like Aaron said, we really appreciate your time. We know in this industry, time is valuable. So thanks for spending the next hour with us. Just to set the tone, we're basically going to be spending the next hour talking about what we call our Network Security Design for Cloud workshop. That's a mouthful, so we like to shorten it by saying an NSDC. So I'm going to just kind of give you some perspective and some things that we're seeing in terms of trends and things that are kind of why we put this workshop together. Give you just a kind of a high overview of what the workshop looks like, at least in terms of if you wanted to have one of these workshops as a follow-up. And then I'll kick over to Raj to go a little deeper into some of these areas, just for more of a public cloud security and kind of more technical deep dive. So like I said, we're just going to go through this agenda. If you have any questions, please feel free to pop them into the Q&A. We will try our best to answer them as we have time permitted. So just to give you some context, again, like I said, we'll be talking about public cloud security. Now, there's number one, I'd like to remind everybody that we have all these different awesome business units here at Palo Alto Networks. So again, depending on what you're focusing on, what's important to you, what your initiatives are, there might be some other groups that would be an appropriate follow-up. But today, what we're really going to spend most of our time on is in the area of network security, and in particular, network security for public cloud. We have another team, our Prisma Cloud team, that's really great at covering security from sort of an application standpoint. And I think as a best practice, make sure you're looking at your public cloud security from both a network security and also application security. So keep that in mind, but we'll be talking about network security here for the next hour. So just to give you some perspective, I mean, this is no surprise to anybody. We're here in 2024. Everybody's, for the most part, now using at least one cloud service provider. What we're finding is most of our customers are using at least 2 or 3 public cloud service providers. And again, no surprise to really what the advantages are, or the reasons why people are moving to public cloud. So whether it's sort of trying to be more innovative or staying ahead of your competition, or trying to leverage machine learning and AI to be more efficient and successful in your business, or just really trying to provide better agility. There's all different reasons why customers are moving to public cloud, but they're definitely seeing advantages to putting whether it's work, applications, development, or other workloads in public cloud. And most of our customers are, like I said, not just using a couple of cloud service providers, but they still have a footprint in their data center. So what a typical customer that we talk to, typically they'll have their data center. That data center probably is a mix of physical as well as kind of traditional hypervisor, virtualization environments. And then on top of that, they're layering these cloud service provider environments on top of that. The issue that we're seeing and hearing is that customers are still struggling with the security in the public cloud. Some of I've got some of the examples in the last few years of things that we're seeing that are in the news. And again, these are not, if you look under the covers, these are still sort of traditional network security issues. So whether you're in public cloud or in your data center, if you were to look at the mechanics of these, it's really similar. So the thought is that since these are traditional security, network security attacks, you really still have to be thinking about how to extend your traditional network security practices into public cloud. And that's really what this workshop is designed to do, is to help you kind of figure out that motion. And in addition to what I have here, what we're also seeing is just a rapid expansion of threats. So I don't think this is any surprise to anyone on this call, but we're still seeing an explosion of bad actors. So in addition to that scale, we're seeing more advanced threats. So bad actors are using machine learning just like we are. They're using public cloud just like we are. They're using automation. So it is truly that cat and mouse game. But we're seeing that explosion continue to happen, and we wouldn't expect it to slow down at all. So this is another reason why we're seeing customers struggle in public cloud security. And then the second thing, besides that explosion, is just again, like I mentioned, because customers do have typically multiple cloud service providers as well as their physical footprint in the data center, then there's just a lot of complexity that's happening that customers didn't see 10 years ago. So as these new environments are being added on, that just makes things more difficult, and of course that leads to human error. And we all know that those gaps are just easy targets for our adversaries. So if you think about this as a traditional network, in 2024, this is certainly what we see, but this just becomes very difficult, especially if different cloud service providers have their own tools and you're just leveraging those instead of something kind of comprehensively across all those different environments. Then you might have different consoles that you're managing different security tools with. And if you don't have a huge security team, if you have a fairly small resource pool, then this complexity gets really out of hand really quickly. And again, that is just easy pickings for the bad guys. Related, we're also seeing a lot of our customers wanting to move away from strictly point of best of breed point solutions. If you go back maybe the last 10 years or so, 10, 15 years, most companies have had pretty healthy budgets. The economy's been pretty good up until the last year or so. But if you kind of look at where we're at today, most of our customers are saying, hey, we just can't have 20, 30, 50, different security tools or environment that it just is too, again, kind of going back to that complexity issue. We just can't have that. So, we send a survey out to all of our customers every year. About 3/4 of our customers are saying, today we need to really figure out more of a platform that we can leverage across all these different cloud service providers, as well as our data center. You might have heard we've been using this term platformization internally, but this is, again, just the concept of saying, how can I take advantage? How can I get a better ROI by using a single platform, across these different environments? Whether that's just, from a management console perspective, or whether that's a resourcing or, a financial decision, there's a lot of great reasons why you would want to leverage a single provider for network security, for instance. So those are just kind of the big trends that we're seeing, and sort of the reason why we decided to put together this workshop in the first place. So to kind of give you a deeper dive on what this workshop is, again, it's a network security design for cloud workshop. So what it's designed to do is have someone on our team, basically, a subject matter expert, sit down with you for, an hour or two and find out really what your initiatives are around public cloud, and then give us your ideas on sort of your design to address the security issues and aspects of that initiative. And then give us an opportunity to, give you some ideas for maybe best practices or things that maybe you haven't thought of before. And really, this is just based on either, real world best practices or, things we're seeing from our own customers and their deployments in public cloud. So, but again, it's a very easy, lightweight workshop. It's free, number one. Number two, it's designed to be customized around your environment. And then again, it's really designed to give you some best practices and a best way forward. So think of this, today what we're doing is we're giving you a preview of what this might look like, but keep in mind that today we have, we have 50 people on the call today. So obviously we can't customize a workshop for 50 people, but we want to give you some ideas just to kind of get started. But we want to ask you as a call to action, as a next step, to really consider, signing up for one of these NSDC workshops as a follow-up. So a sample agenda, just to give you a perspective, I already told you, basically you would give us your architecture, your design, then we would just kind of dive into that and figure out what, some ideas around what that future state might look like, and then give you some ideas around industry best practices. You can see the topics here on the right-hand side that I've listed out. What we've done is we've tried to package these workshops into a few different common scenarios. So number one, we have at a real high level, two different options that you can go forward. Either you want to talk about public cloud and, maybe you're going into AWS or you're going to Azure or you're going to GCP or OCI, or we also have this same workshop design if you are trying to adopt cloud, but really more of in a private cloud setting. So if you're using, VMware or Nutanix or someone like that, then we have these agendas that we can, really dial in that as well. So think about your initiatives over the next year, and maybe you have, both going on, and that's great. We'd be happy to do a workshop for each one. So, but just to give you an idea, this is really out of the box. Most of the discussions that we're having in these workshops fall into one of these categories. The last thing I'll do before I hand it over to Raj is just from a quick next step. I've got a QR code if you want to take a quick snapshot before, and we can always put this at the end as I can pull this back up. But this QR code will bring you to a landing page so you can register for one of these NSDC workshops, and then we'll be happy to see how fast we can get one coordinated for you. So with that, I will stop sharing my screen and I'll hand it over to Raj to kind of dive into some of these areas a little deeper. So with that, Raj, the floor is yours.
Thanks, Eric. Okay, you all can see my screen?
Yep.
That's good. Okay, let's get started. Okay, good morning, everyone. Eric went over high-level overview of NSCC program. We have around like 45 minutes right now. So, the options that Eric gave in terms of various public clouds and private clouds. In the interest of time, I'll probably be able to touch upon one of the public clouds. If time permits, I'll touch upon both AWS and Azure. But the idea is to, in next 45 minutes, give you an high-level overview about what is our software firewall, overall network security platform looks like. And during that course, I'll also talk about or show you a quick overview or a demo of how easy these platforms or products to deploy with. So with that, let's get started. So before we get started, correct, just wanted to kind of level set and talk about the overall customer journey. Like what I'm showing here is a typical cloud migration journey. And here customers like you would probably start with PA series hardware platforms to secure your on-prem traditional data centers. And then, as you all know, VMware came with a concept of virtualization a couple of years back. So that's your customer started migrating their workloads from on-prem to their private clouds. That's what the start of data center virtualization or private cloud. After the private cloud journey, some of the applications or the next evolving point would be taking those virtualized apps and then moving them to one, probably, to start with one of the public cloud. And the obvious option would be using lift and shift. That's the start of like migrating from private cloud to one of the public cloud. And then once the cloud maturity goes up and up, like what customers would probably do, they'll start directly building applications natively into the cloud itself. Now, in each of these scenarios, like the slide I'm highlighting, from virtualization to the hybrid cloud to more than one cloud or cloud native option, software firewall plays a very critical role. That's where, like, from your on-prem PA series to any of these cloud migration journey, you would need software firewall. And in next slide, I'll talk about what are the use cases or why do you really need a cloud next-gen software firewall in public cloud. Okay, so what we are looking at in this particular slide, the middle portion is pretty much, think of this as either your AWS or Azure cloud, and you have some internal applications running in this particular cloud, and you have your on-prem, the data center, which I'm showing in this slide. It's connected via various options like a direct connect, or in case of Azure, it will be Express Route. So you have PA series firewalls running on your data center connected to a public cloud. Now, the applications which are running in this particular cloud, let's talk about the number one use case, the outbound protection, right? These applications, when I talk about outbound communication, what I really mean is that your workloads which are inside the cloud trying to connect to the outside world. And there are obviously a couple of valid reasons. The first and foremost would be you want to make sure that these applications which are running on cloud, they need to go and talk to the outside world for options like getting the latest software updates, right? You also want to make sure that these applications are able to get a latest code which your developers have put it out on a GitHub, be able to get that latest code. Or you might want these applications to talk to some of the API like Google APIs or any other API services. So the moment when you allow these applications to go out and talk to outside world, what really happens is that these applications are also now exposed to malicious actors and be able to download or reach out to malicious URLs, reach out to command and control servers, and get your core data outside so that hackers can get access to it. And that's where, if you have software firewalls sitting at that boundary and be able to monitor those outgoing connections, we will be able to, with our cloud delivered services like advanced URL filtering, advanced wildfire, DLP for data exfiltration, we'll be able to block that all the actual data going out. And once you block it outside, that's the number one use case. Now, oftentimes customers would also ask us, hey, I'm in AWS or I'm in Azure, I'm using their native security tools like WAF and security groups. Now, why do I need firewall when I have a WAF protecting my web applications? And that's where, when it comes to inbound protection, yes, of course, you can use WAF for protecting HTTP traffic or HTTPS traffic, but what about rest of the other traffic? Like, for example, RDP, DNS, SSH. So anything outside of traditional HTTP or HTTPS traffic, that will not be protected by web application firewall. So I'm not saying you don't need WAF, but I'm saying once you have the WAF, you will also need a software firewall to complement the functionality that WAF is not able to provide. The second use case in terms of inbound protection is that just imagine a scenario, like let's say if you are a hospital or an insurance company, and if your clients are trying to upload some sort of, like what I'm showing in this diagram, are trying to upload some insurance claims to one of your web server. Now, in that same scenario, hacker might use some sort of PDF file, embed some sort of malicious code, and they can upload that code to your malicious server, to your web server. If you just have the inbound traffic inspected by WAF, WAF will not be able to look at the actual content of the file, and it might let that malicious PDF file to be uploaded to the web server. And that's where, if you have software firewall looking at that inbound connection, we'll be able to detect that there's a malicious code. Our advanced wildfire will catch it and will block it right there. So that's the second use case, protecting your inbound traffic. And last but not least, when we talk about east-west, because if you look at in virtualized or even public clouds, 80% of traffic is going between the applications, like microservices talking to each other. And that's where, if you have software firewall sitting between those perimeters, like between the VPCs, at the boundary of VPCs, looking at that connections and making sure if a DB is talking to an app, making sure indeed that traffic is a database traffic. So that's where, when it comes to east-west protection, software firewall plays a very important role. So again, 3 things: protecting your outbound, that's number 1, protecting your inbound, and then protecting your east-west traffic. That's why we need a next-gen software firewall in public cloud. Okay, now we understand that why do you need software firewall in public cloud? Let's quickly take a look at what our Palo Alto Networks software firewall or the entire network security platform looks like. Right? So in our view, when we talk about software firewall, there are 3 layers for an effective platform. And I'm highlighting the platform here. I'll go a little bit deeper into what are these individual products is. But on a high level, the platform should be able to provide unified management and operations. Be able to quickly and consistently manage policies across multiple clouds. Like the scenario I was showing you, I showed a single cloud, but customers usually have, 80% customers today have more than one cloud. So be able to have that same consistent policy, not only on your on-prem, but be able to use that same policy to more than one cloud. So that unified management and operation. Now, the second use case is be able to provide AI-powered real-time security. We have an event coming up during RSA, and we'll talk a lot about the overall AI security. But when it comes to adapting and be able to provide that enhanced security for your all the latest AI applications, be able to protect or provide that data protection, model protection, be able to detect that overall prompt injection. So anything that your developers are doing with AI and be able to provide that AI security, that is something that the platform should be able to provide you. And again, on top of that, the last thing would be able to provide that consistent enforcement everywhere, whether it's on-prem, whether it's a one cloud, whether it's a multi-cloud, whether it's a virtualized form factor or a container form factor, any form factor, any cloud, be able to provide that consistent enforcement. That should be the job of a platform. And that's what we are here to provide. Taking a little bit deeper look into actual products. So the first one I wanted to introduce is the Customer Managed Software Next-Gen Firewall. That is our VM series product. When it comes to VM series, the product is out probably, I would say, more than 10 plus years now. This is our virtualized form factor. Everything that you get in to your PA series hardware firewalls, you get it, all the features and functionality in a software form factor, which you would be able to deploy in your either public or private cloud. We support all the various hypervisors like VMware, Nutanix, KVM, Hyper-V, and so on. And in terms of container workloads, we support Kubernetes, Rancher, VMware Tanzu, and so on. So it runs across all the clouds. You can deploy our products using various CI/CD automation tools like Terraform and Ansible. And when it comes to licensing or consumption, you can consume it in a very flexible way with our Flex licensing. So that's our software form factor, or the first product, virtualized product, VM series. Now, the next one where I'll be probably spending most of the time is our cloud native managed service, Cloud Next-Gen Firewall for AWS and Azure. This is something like we announced Cloud Next-Gen Firewall for Azure probably more than a year back, and 6 months back, we also announced for Azure. Both of these products provide same cloud native experience, like you're deploying an EC2 or creating a load balancer in public cloud. So you get same cloud native experience with each of these products. This is zero maintenance because the entire life cycle of deploying these firewalls, managing them, auto scaling them, everything is taken care by Palo Alto. So there's zero maintenance from a customer perspective. And just like any other cloud resources, you can consume it like pay as you go, or you can have your own credit. So consumption is like in cloud-like consumption that is offered by both of these products. Touching upon the other two, so just this slide highlights the strategy that we took with Cloud Next-Gen Firewalls for public cloud. Again, we are probably the only one having this software firewall, Cloud Next-Gen Firewall managed service across all the major cloud providers. The one on the first one, the ISV model partnership, this is where we have a great partnership with AWS and Azure. The service is powered by Palo Alto or VMC's firewalls in the backend. It is natively integrated in AWS and Azure, and it is managed by Palo Alto. The second option that we have with Google and Oracle, this is the CSP managed OEM model. That's the partnership that we have with Google and OCI. And with the OCI model, what happens is that it is owned and operated by CSPs like Google and OCI. However, again, in the backend, service is managed by Palo Alto. But as a customer, you would be able to purchase it through natively using Google or OCI console, and it will be seen inside the Google and OCI as a native service. So the entire service, in case of OEM model, is managed by the cloud provider. Whereas in case of ISV model, the service is managed in our account. So that's the, I would say, sort of difference between ISV versus OEM model. And in next probably half an hour, I'll touch upon, again, going back to start with Azure and then go a little bit deeper onto AWS and show you some of the architectures and a quick demo. Okay, so starting with Azure. So when it comes to Cloud Next-Gen Firewall for Azure, what I'm highlighting here is that two sort of responsibilities, correct? It's a shared responsibility. When it comes to managed service offering, it is fully managed cloud native service, just like an easy button. As a customer, you would have to just create the firewall rules, because we want to make sure that firewall creation, policies, and rules are still in control with customers. So you have an option to create the firewall rules. And once you create the rules, the only thing that you would have to do is route the traffic from your VNet to us. So that's one time, I would say, setting that you would have to do. And what we would do on our end, we would go ahead and, as the bottom portion is highlighted, in case of infra management, will automatically deploy and scale the firewalls based upon the load. The traffic can scale up to like 100 gig, and the service also provides premium support with 99.9 SLA. So the entire lifecycle management, as I'm saying again, will be taken care by Palo Alto. We'll deploy it in our Azure account. I'm showing example over here, Azure, but the same happens with AWS as well. We'll deploy these firewalls in our account. We'll maintain them. We'll make sure that they have the latest PAN-OS images. We'll also make sure that whenever there is a services or security updates are needed, we'll go ahead and update in the backend, and we'll take care of scaling them up or down based upon your traffic load, right? So that's what the Cloud Next-Gen Firewall service is about. So in summary, what exactly it provides in terms of key capabilities, it's a best-in-class cloud delivered, fully managed native service on Azure. Under the hood, the service is built using VMC's firewalls, supports our patented App ID, threat prevention, advanced URL filtering, all the subscriptions that you get it on your PA series and VMC's firewalls. And again, integrated natively into the Azure portal. And you can deploy the service using ISC tools like Terraform, Azure CLI, SDK, and so on. And if you are a customer who's using Panorama for managing your existing infrastructure, you would be able to use same Panorama to manage Cloud Next-Gen firewalls as well. So that's my next slide. So this slide shows that the integration, the available options, and how does it look like as part of the console. So what I'm going to do, I'll show you a couple of slides, but that's not exciting. I'll quickly show you how easy and how native it is with an actual demo. So let me just switch my screens. Okay, are you all able to see the Azure console?
Yep.
Eric? Okay, good. So what I'm highlighting or showing here, just sorry. Okay, so what we are looking at is the Azure console. Once you log into Azure console, you can either go to Marketplace or since I have used the service before, it shows as part of my Azure services. So either way, you can search for Cloud Next-Gen Firewall in the console, or you can start from the Azure services. And once you click on Cloud Next-Gen Firewall by Palo Alto Networks, I'll show you how easy and simple it is to deploy a firewall. So we would just do a create option. And in terms of create, so you'll select your subscription. If you have already created a resource group, you would select that. Resource group is nothing but this is like a container where you create all your Azure resources. So in this example, let me see, I'll use an existing one that I created before. Provide a name, let's say RP demo Once, name of the firewall, the region where you want to deploy this firewall, what kind of subscription. I was telling you, pay as you go or credit. So select the subscription. These are some of the charges. Select next. Now, this is where you have an option. There are two types of architectures that Azure supports, where as a virtual network, hub and spoke, or a virtual WAN, where you have a virtual WAN managed entirely by Azure. That hub is managed, or vWAN managed by Azure. So depending upon the type of deployment, you would select either vWAN or virtual network. If let's say virtual WAN, you would select that particular virtual WAN. Select the public IP address for the firewall, source NAT for your outbound traffic, the traffic that needs to be source NATed. If you want to use the same public IP, you would select that. Click next. Now, coming back to security policies, as I was saying, if you are a customer, an existing customer, and you are starting entirely in a cloud native way, you do not have a panorama, then you can manage that entire firewalls along with policies natively as part of Azure console using Azure Rule Stack. That's our equivalent of panorama policies. Or if you have an existing panorama and you want to take advantage of panorama, you would select Palo Alto Networks panorama. So you make that decision over here. Let's say you go with the native rule stack. We'll create a native first rule stack for you. If you want to act as a firewall, you want to act the firewall as a DNS proxy, you would select that. And then agree the terms, review and create. That's it. So it'll run the final validation. You click on the create and it will go ahead and create the firewall for you. That's how easy it is. As you can see, in a few clicks, we were able to get the entire firewall up and running, and the firewall gets deployed into specific VNet or a vWAN. Correct? Okay, so that was the firewall deployment. Let me go back and show you some other things. Okay, so once the firewall gets deployed, the firewall would be shown as part of, once everything gets created, and if I would have selected Panorama as an option and provided this particular string over here that we generate and provide the string as part of my deployment, the firewall would then show up as part of managed devices inside the Panorama, and then you can start managing your policies. So that's how this integration of creating a firewall into native Azure console, and if you manage via Panorama, you would just provide that string and it shows up over here. And then we have these corresponding plugins for be able to create the, set up the firewalls, monitor the policies, and be able to, apply the specific rules across multiple clouds. So in this example, if I want to push the policy, or if you want to just, have the policies to be deployed, I can just then have various like devices. In this example, I have my CN series firewall or PS series, a VM, a newly created Azure firewall show up here, and then I can have a policy, that same unified policy deployed across all of these form factors. The network security platform slide I was talking about, providing that unified policy, that is something that you can achieve using our Panorama. We have also started supporting Strata Cloud Manager, which is our SaaS service for Panorama. So SaaS, Strata Cloud Manager support for both Cloud Next-Gen Firewall, AWS and Azure will be available like around May, June timeframe, we'll have support for Strata Cloud Manager. So again, both the options as a SaaS service or using Panorama for policy management. Okay. So what do we really do when we talk about Cloud Next-Gen Firewall for Azure? What exactly customer gets, or what exactly gets created in the backend? When we create a Cloud Next-Gen Firewall, we call it as creating a resource. And what happens in the backend, we would go ahead and create the one that I'm highlighting here. So we would go ahead and create this entire components which are listed as a Cloud Next-Gen Firewall resource in one of our account. We'll create load balancers, both private and public load balancer for customers. We would create, if you are starting, let's say, East US region, or any other region for that matter, depending upon the number of AZs that region supports, we'll go ahead and start deploying VMCs firewalls in a scale set on each of these regions. And then based upon the load, we'll then keep on adding more firewalls. So a single resource comes with built-in load balancers, scale set, and depending upon the number of AZs, that entire group of resources is called a single Cloud Next-Gen Firewall resource. Touching back on the architecture, so as I was showing you in the diagram, we support both VNet and vWAN. In case of VNet-based architecture, what we have here, again, on the left-hand side, this is the entire resource that we create. And we use something called VNet injection. This is something that Azure supports. So when we talk about VNet injection, the NIC cards that I'm showing here in the slides on VMCs firewalls, like 3 NIC cards on public subnets and 3 NIC cards for the private subnet. So these NICs are they virtually appear to be sitting inside the customer subscription in this hub VNet. As part of the firewall creation, we would go ahead and create these public and private subnet inside the customer hub VNet, and then these NICs will, in the backend, will appear to be sitting inside the customer hub VNet. So that's the hub and spoke VNet architecture. And again, when it comes to policies, you can use Panorama or Azure Portal for managing those. Differentiating between the vWAN, in case of vWAN architecture, as you can see here, now the middle portion, what I'm highlighting here, the vWAN hub is now sits into Microsoft subscription. So as a customer, you will have your spoke VNets. That's where you deploy the applications. You would have rule stack or Panorama to manage policies, but then Microsoft will be managing this vWAN hub. And inside the vWAN hub, again, these public and private subnets will be created, and we will have firewalls sitting in Palo Alto subscription will be able to kind of redirect the traffic which is coming in public and private subnet from backend directly to us here in our subscription. So that's how we take the traffic from your vWAN hub via internal link back to us. We do the inspection, we bring it back and send it out. So that's the, I would say, high level architecture between vWAN and VNet. And when we do the actual NSCC workshops, again, in the interest of time, I'm touching it on a high level. But what we would do, we would look into your existing architecture. We'll go deeper into the traffic flows, where the application should reside, how the newly designed architecture should look like, how the migration should happen. So all that, I would say, technical discussion happens as part of the actual 2+ hours deep dive during the NSCC workshop. Okay, so I'll quickly touch upon, I talked a lot about Azure. The time is not enough in this webinar, but again, happy to sit down, with each one of you and go deeper into specific cloud. But what I wanted to also do, give you a quick overview of the AWS, how the AWS looks like, what are the architecture options when it comes to AWS, and at least, provide you the concepts and let you know what are the services that we offer. So I'll quickly skip upon some of the basic concepts, but as you all know, when you talk about AWS, VPC is nothing but your private data center. You have the AZs. These are more of your physical data centers for redundancy. And one of the important components when it comes to AWS is the transit gateway. Transit gateway is that glue which allows you to connect your multiple application VPCs and be able to allow them to talk to each other via transit gateway. So as I'm showing in this example, it also allows you to connect if you have some on-prem presence like data centers that I was showing in my previous example, you can connect those data centers to a transit gateway, and that's how that resources which are in your data center will be able to talk to all the application VPCs in public cloud. If you have workloads running in any other cloud, whether Azure or GCP, you can also connect them via transit gateway. So that's how you create your multi-cloud or hybrid cloud architecture. Now, when it comes to the load balancer, one of the, I would say, enhancement that AWS did and then Azure and Azure followed that is what they call is gateway load balancer. So gateway load balancer is nothing but a combination of a load balancer and router. With the introduction of gateway load balancer, customers, and it comes with, gateway load balancer comes with something called endpoint. So as I'm highlighting in this slide, gateway load balancer will have an endpoint sitting in customer's application VPC. That's where the traffic lands. And from VPC endpoint or the gateway load balancer endpoint, there's a direct link that connects or brings the traffic back to the load balancer. So that's where, as you can see that the top is my application VPC, and then bottom is where I have gateway load balancer. So this gateway load balancer allows virtual appliances like virtual firewalls, either Cloud Next-Gen firewall or VM-Series firewall, to be deployed in an auto-scale fashion. It also provides flow stickiness, so no longer customers have to use source or destination NAT, which was there, that was one of the drawbacks before the gateway load balancer. It allows flow rerouting, health check, and a lot of other benefits. The traffic gets encapped from gateway load balancer to the firewall. So that's where it maintains that session symmetry. So all those advantages are provided by gateway load balancer. And that's where, all the architectures that Palo Alto recommends are based upon the gateway load balancer in between. Coming to the architectures itself, there are 3 designs, I would say. And I'll show you the most recommended one, but let's start with distributed design model. It's a little bit hard to say in this particular slide, but in a high level, when I talk about distributed design, what I really mean is that you have an application VPC and you are deploying a firewall for that specific VPC. So let's say you have 10 VPCs, which each VPC will have its own firewall. So that's what your distributed design model would look like. In case of centralized design model, as the name says, you'll have a dedicated secured VPC, a centralized VPC, and that's where you deploy the firewalls, and you'll have all the application VPCs connected via transit gateway to your secured VPC. But the most highly recommended model, or the one that Palo Alto recommends, is what we call combined design model. That's nothing but best of both worlds. You'll have application VPCs, where you'll have internet gateways or IGWs where the traffic will come in for some of the application VPCs, but you also have centralized security VPC where you'll deploy your VM-Series firewalls. So it's a combination of distributed and centralized, what we call a combined design model. And we do have reference architectures for each of these designs, pros and cons, how to insert the firewall. I'm showing the example of VM-Series over here. If you have to compare this with Cloud Next-Gen firewall, all the components I'm showing here, like gateway load balancer, this VM-Series firewalls, will be, instead of sitting in security VPC, will be sitting inside Palo Alto's VPC and will be managed by Palo Alto. So we support both the options, whether if you want to do it yourself, you want to deploy the firewalls on your own, you can deploy them as part of the architecture using VM-Series. But if you want more of a managed service, don't want to deal with managing the firewalls, their life cycle, and all that hassle. If you want Palo Alto to kind of deal with that, we would then have Cloud Next-Gen Firewall, which is a managed service. Right? Okay, let's quickly look at the deployment in a short demo. So what I'm highlighting here, and all these templates, like in the example that I'm highlighting here, the template will create this end-to-end architecture with VPCs, and this example shows Log4j, where we have attacker trying to attack a compromised Log4j, which is sitting in VPC B. This entire architecture with multiple VPCs connected via transit gateway. You can download the code from GitHub, copy it, go to your AWS account, and be able to deploy this entire architecture probably in less than 10 minutes. As I'm highlighting here, to start with, I don't have anything like no EC2 instances created. So whereas I have subscribed to VM series and Panorama in Marketplace, and inside the AWS Cloud Shell, I have copied the code, and just by running the setup.sh script, once the script starts, it will go ahead and create the entire end-to-end architecture, including the VPCs, will take care of connecting those VPCs via transit gateway, putting the entire required routes which are needed, and end of this, when the script is done, will then provide the IP address of firewall, the attack server, or the compromised Log4j server, just for you to test out the scenario. So as you can see here, in the end, you have the firewall IP address, and then a couple of other components of the application servers that we created. So if you go back to now the firewall itself, you have the firewall up and running. And the example that I'm showing here, not only we have the script and architectures, but we also have the end-to-end deployment guide. We also provide, along with NSSC, we also have various other offerings like Ultimate Test Drive as an example, that you can attend our Ultimate Test Drive or UTD workshops, where you'll get a hands-on experience for trying our products. So as you can see here, after the deployment, we have all these application servers as well as firewall got created. And then if I go back, I would be able to then reach out and have a connectivity established. Okay, so to kind of summarize, one of the examples that I showed here on GitHub, there was just a quick demo of the capabilities of, how do you get this entire deployment done using one of your favorite tools, whether it's a Terraform or any other tool. But if you're looking for more deployments, we have recently announced Software Firewall Orchestration Hub. This is your single source of truth, or I would say one-stop shop, where you would find all the different templates for deploying Cloud Next-Gen Firewall, VM series firewall, whether it's a AWS or Azure GCP. So this is your pan.dev is your portal where you would have all these templates available. So again, highly encourage, if you are in the process of trying it out or deploying, please check out this orchestration hub. That you should be able to kind of find everything in terms of your automation tools. If you are trying to kick the tires, whether it's a Cloud Next-Gen Firewall for Azure or Cloud Next-Gen Firewall for AWS or VM series, we have the free 30 days or 15-day trials for each of these products. All of these products are available on Marketplace to try. I'm showing a link for AWS reference architecture, but all other products, we have the detailed reference architectures, and as well as a lot of how to do videos, deployment guides on our live community page. So again, encourage all of you to kind of take a look at it and try it out. Okay, so just to summarize, we talked about overall software firewall, network security platform, but to recap today's session, what it really does is provides this, 3 superior outcomes: best security, best layer 7 security and performance without exception. We recently have SecureIQ, which is a third-party testing company, came up with a report. And if you look at our threat efficacy, we are the #1 when it comes to protecting all the advanced threats. Software firewalls are most flexible. As I was showing you, you have the various different form factors, whether it's a self-managed, whether it's a managed service, whether you are trying to protect your container workload. So most flexible, most, I would say, easy to consume when it comes to deployment flexibility, whether public cloud, private cloud, pay as you go, or using your credits. And again, finally, it provides the highest ROI in terms of reducing the overall capital and operational expenses, like best price performance. So that's what the 3 outcomes that software firewall provides: best security, most flexible, and the highest ROI. If you are looking for additional reference architectures, I'm just highlighting some of the QR codes here for getting you a high-level overview what the public cloud security is. If you're specifically looking for AWS, Azure, or GCP, there are these architectures. And again, the entire Palo Alto team is here to support when it comes to going deeper into each of these, one of your architectures, or sitting with your practitioner teams, walking you through this, how the new architecture would look like, and getting deeper into specific clouds when it comes to the NSCC workshop as such. So just to summarize, this was a very high level 45 minutes overview for each of these clouds, but again, we can have those deep dive discussions for detailed discussions specific to your needs and specific to your requirement. With that, I think, I'm done with my today's session.
All right. Well, thanks, Eric and Raj, for putting together a really informative presentation. We really appreciate your time today. For those of you who asked questions, we will make sure that Eric and Raj's teams get those so they can follow up with you. And a quick reminder that this is your last chance to grab those handouts before we close the event in just a moment. Before we wrap up, we do have one more piece of business. It is the Amazon gift card prize drawing. And the $250 Amazon gift card goes to Khalid Tariq from California. So congratulations to Khalid. We'll be in touch to get you your card. And with that, on behalf of the Actual Tech Media team, I want to thank Palo Alto Networks for making this event possible. And thanks as always for attending. That concludes today's event. Have a great rest of your day.